7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So the first item on our agenda this evening is election of board officers. And we'll be doing a roll call vote for the positions of president, vice president, and legislative rep. So at this time, I will take nominations for the 3 positions. Let's do president first.
I will move to elect Carrie Thibodeau to serve in the position of president. I second that.
Okay. I guess we'll vote individually as we go.
Director Kinsler,
Carrie Thibodeau?
Director Madigan,
Carrie Thibodeau?
Director Milo,
Carrie Thibodeau.
Director Thibodeau,
Carrie Thibodeau.
and Director Tracy.
Carrie Thibodeau.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. For the position of vice president, I would like to nominate Melissa Kinsler.
Second that.
Any other nominations? Great. Then I will call for a vote.
Director Kinsler,
Melissa Kinsley. So awkward.
Director Madigan,
Melissa Kinsley.
Director Milo,
Melissa Kinsler.
Director Thibodeau,
Melissa Kinsler.
and Director Tracy.
Melissa Kinsler.
Thank you.
Great. And then for our third position, we have legislative representative. And currently Melissa holds that position. And if we were wondering if anybody else is interested in that role, or I'm happy to nominate her to continue in that role. She's done a very good job.
We'll take it.
You're so good at it.
That sounds like a cop-out. Sorry. I would accept the nomination.
Great. Then I will call for a vote.
Is there a second?
Oh,
I will second.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Director Kinsler,
Me, myself, and I, Melissa Kinsler.
Director Madigan,
Melissa Kinsler.
Director Milo,
Melissa Kinsler.
Director Thibodeau,
Melissa Kinsler.
and Director Tracy.
Melissa Kinsler.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for serving again in those roles.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. All right, the next item on our agenda is, excuse me, board recognition. And I would like to invite Robin to the podium. Robin Hash is the director of the Orting Food Bank. And
Hi, everybody.
I think you have some words to say.
Okay, I sure do. So earlier this year, just last month in fact, the students of PTR and their parents and teachers worked really hard to raise, and I'm not sure how many items, but it was 3,500 pounds of food for the Orting Food Bank. I just wanted to come here and recognize you guys and let you know that every family that comes into the Orting Food Bank takes out about 100 pounds, if not maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, about 100 pounds of food every week. And that includes about 20 meals. So you have provided over 350 families with their meals, and you multiply that times 20, I want you all to do that. That's a whole lot of meals and a whole lot of help. I greatly appreciate the entire town of Orting. Really appreciate you. Give yourselves a great big pat on the back.
Robin, thank you. Thank you for being here this evening.
Absolutely.
I would now like to invite Principal Mesa up. Principal Mesa, principal of Ptarmigan Elementary, and if you would introduce Ms. Lean and Brandon.
have our leadership students here who organize that, and I want to just take the moment to introduce our leadership advisor, Miss Lean. Unfortunately, Mr. Peters is out sick and isn't able to make it this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Can I take this now? I like the microphone. All right, so I wanted to let a few of our student leaders, first I want to introduce them all. We had 10 leaders from Mrs. O'Donovan's class, and we're doing our leadership program a little bit differently at Ptarmigan because we want to give all the kids that want to participate the opportunity. So the month of November was Mrs. O'Donovan's class, and then every month we'll have a new 5th grade class with new representatives. So it's really fun to give as many kids as we can that opportunity to be leaders at school. So actually let me introduce. Okay, so when I say your name, don't be worried. When I say your name, if you guys could just stand up and wave. So I have Michael Harris. I have Madden Sherman. I have Ben Bull. I have Mirabella Palermo. Jackson Smith. Aria Peck. Carter Fingston. Evie Luna. Jake Osley. And then I also have Izzy Edwards, who wasn't able to make it tonight. So if we can just give them all a really quick round. So I do have a couple of slides to flip through, but I also wanted a couple of my leaders, Mirabella and Jackson, to come up and just tell you guys a little bit of how we got this food drive together. Mirabella and Jackson, you guys want to come on up? Talk into the microphone.
First, the food drive started out with the leadership kids making posters to spread throughout the school. After we made videos with the food drive info to put up on the school's Facebook page. Then during our recess time, we collected food that as it started to come in. In total, we collected about 7,000 items, I believe. After we boxed the food so it could be transported easier when the truck came to pick it all up.
We updated the numbers for our class competition every day on the school announcements. Collecting was a huge job, so we had to collect for 3 weeks. On the last day, we helped load all 7,000 items into the truck to take to the food bank.
So I just have a few slides just to show you a little bit about what we did. So the first thing that we decided to do was to make our posters and hang them all over the school. Is that a clip? Oh! Going backwards, sorry. So here we are collecting from all the classrooms, and we had a great competition going. There was some fierce competition. Lots of heavy lifting. They spent lots of recesses collecting, which was amazing. And then here we are toward the end. And then here are just some pictures of the kids loading up the truck, and you can kind of see the boxes behind. We had a lot of food, I think. Is everybody loading up? And here we are in front of the truck, so you can see behind all the boxes that we have. It was a rainy day, of course, that only rainy day. And then here we are at the food bank with everybody it took to unload all the food that they collected. And then here we are all celebrating ourselves with a nice pizza party because they did such a great job. I was really, really proud of them. They went above and beyond, and they are just amazing, amazing 5th graders. So great job, you guys. I'm very, very proud of you.
We have some certificates to recognize the important work that you've done, and also some candy. If I could get some help, you do the certificates. I'll do the candy because that's the good part.
That works. I did candy. Thank you so much. Yes, I will get that to Izzy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we couldn't be prouder of you kids. You definitely represent the best students in Orting. We're proud of your community service and just your commitment to taking care of your neighbors. So thank you very much.
Board, we'd love to invite you down below where you can take a photo with our students and you as well. So if you don't mind joining us down on the floor, we'll get a photo op. Students, come gather around. Just come right in and do a photo with your teachers and our board.
Thank you, students. We're still in board recognition, so I want to take a minute to recognize a few other things, and then you'll be free to head home and enjoy your evening. But before you go, anything else?
Yes, actually. I wanted to shout out to our FFA program that they, for the second year in a row, they've received Program of the Year. And also, with that, our esteemed Mr. Carlson received the FFA Administrator of the Year for District 2. This program is on to state, as I understand it, so that's pretty exciting. I also wanted to shout out to the students and staff that organized, ran, and supervised the first annual Holiday Bazaar. That was made up of local vendors. That was down at the PAC over this past weekend. It was a very successful event. Parking was a struggle, but Mr. Carlson was outside guiding people with his effervescent smile, always, never without a smile. Walked in to see students, staff, and community members all festively attired, smiling, and having a great time. And I'm really looking forward to seeing many, many more of those. And then finally, just to wrap up, these lovely kids that did the food drive. You've been thanked over and over again, but I want to also acknowledge that you're stepping up into a leadership role. That there's, I think, 10 of you out of one classroom just speaks volumes of the kind of leaders that you will one day be, and I just want to thank you one more time.
I wanted to recognize the Orting Primary's kindergarten class for their balloons over Broadway. I saw the pictures on Facebook. That was such a great parade. Oh, it was so cute. I mean, I love the Macy's parade, so it was just like right up my alley. So, and the kindergartners love to have a parade.
Well, I was going to also do the bazaar. I thought that was so, I mean, the kids planned it all, they did it all, and I really wanted to go spend some money, but I was sick, so I couldn't do it. But I heard such good things about it, and I know Matt doesn't like to get recognition, but really, to get that is so cool, Matt. I mean, you've only been doing this a short time, so both Matt and the program are awesome. And then at PTR, they have such fun decorations, like the kindergarten. It's like you're walking into the entire Polar Express. I don't know, it's just, isn't it cool, guys? Have you guys been over there to see it?
Yeah.
It's really cool. So I love that you're celebrating, and then I can't help but mention that ugly sweater thing going on with Matt and Cliff. I've never seen a double sweater like that, and Dave was in there too. But that was very cute. I know the kids liked it, so.
I wanted to recognize the middle school and high school performing arts. We had band concerts and choir concerts this couple of weeks, and they were phenomenal. They just did a great job, and great job with our teachers and those students.
Yeah, it was so much talent.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
much talent. And I also would like to recognize our daffodil candidates and our daffodil princess, Anna Kepper? Kepper? Did I say that right? So anyway, just three very poised, elegant, professional women that I can't wait to see what they do next. So congratulations to Anna and the other girls. Anything else? We're all good? Okay, out of heartfelt kindness to our families and our kids who have school tomorrow and lots to do this evening, I'm still sure. Thank you so much for coming, but if you'd like to stay, of course you're welcome to stay. But if you'd like to go home, we'd love to.
One more day.
How you do it?
What a great turnout.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right, so let's continue. I'd like to open the floor for community and staff comments. And Councilman Gunther, you've signed up to speak this evening.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces, including our newish superintendent. I've heard so many compliments about you serving the community over these last couple of years. Congratulations. So tonight I'm here to advocate for some children. It's whom all of us in this room care a lot about. For those who don't know me, my name is Todd, and I'm a city councilor of Orting. I also have a unique story, which is that for a year I was homeless on the streets, governing this city from beneath a bridge. I share this story because this district has about 60 children in its McKinney-Vento program. Children that come from family and friends' couches, or sometimes even sheds and in the woods. Children who have lived just like me, and therefore are close to my heart. I looked at the district's webpage, and there are 3 History Awareness Months honored here. Black History Month, National Hispanic Heritage Month, and Disability History and Awareness Month. And I'm glad we do these. These are wonderful for children, because celebrations let children know they are okay, and that they can stand tall with pride, whoever they are. But there is one group, I noticed, that does not get the same lift up, and those are unhoused children. I spent several years myself in education, and while I was serving, I never saw a hallway poster or a celebration of these kids. I also witnessed their occasional teasing for wearing the same clothes every day or getting ride homes at night. But I think we can change this. I wonder if schools know that unhomed children have a lot to be proud of. Benjamin Franklin was a homeless youth. So was the composer who wrote our anthem, God Bless America. There are many other examples I could give. Unhomed youth have actually changed the world. So I leave you with a challenge as leaders tonight. Who love children and want them all to rise equally. Beginning next year, I was wondering if perhaps you could consider adding this deserving group to your internal program of celebrating students through hall posters, awareness months, and other ways of inspiration. Having walked in their shoes, being homeless can be incredibly isolating and demoralizing, making kids feel like zeros, which none of us ever want. Orting, however, has been a leader in this state. Look at all the awards banners that are above the cafeteria and what you have achieved in this district. Perhaps, if you adopt this idea, it will grow, and every school district in Washington may follow your example of love. Because I can't think of a group of children and their hardship who deserve more. I've also included a packet here, including a couple of example posters as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you speaking on behalf of our kids, Councilman Gunther. Thank you. I think that's something we can look at. I'd like to, that was our only speaker this evening, so the next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. You're going to see some familiar faces here in this first slide as we take a look at PTR. And you saw it a moment ago, but just take a moment to see how full that truck is. There was just enough room for the pose, and that's about it. And that was just a wonderful celebration. As we happened to be pulling up and unload that truck, we had lines of cars around the corner, just in line, ready to pick up their Thanksgiving meals. And it just was a testament to how needed that food is and how involved our community and our food bank are. So wonderful celebration, and thank you, board, for again taking time to recognize those children and those staff. We had a wonderful play. The cool thing about that, The Curious Savage, was student-led, student-directed. We had students running the board, keeping the performing arts alive, and that's just one of many performing arts we've had in the last month. Just wanted to share a picture of Anna. We had former Queen come, and many former students and many community members involved in the selection. So the wonderful thing about Daffodil Princess is not just about our students as well, but that partnership with our local community and former graduates as we come to recognize our children. Veterans Day assemblies, that happened the day of the last board meeting, but what I wanted to just show you a couple of highlights of how involved our students were. And this picture, this next picture I'll show, just if that doesn't capture the heart, I don't know what will. Our students took time to write letters and cards of appreciation and thanks. This is a picture at OPS where the students would actually go find veterans and hand them cards and notes, and it just made our veterans feel loved and appreciated, and it was really, really amazing. And that was just one example of what was happening all throughout our system that day. I don't often bring elements around agency or mathematical thinking, but I thought this was pretty neat. This is from Martina Benzi's class, and just ways that we can represent procedural or concepts in ways that students can grasp and think about differently than maybe they have done in the past through the algorithm. And so there she's helping students to visualize or see what does it mean to add or subtract polynomials and using algebra tiles to do so. So there's a picture of how she's trying to model what that representation looks like. And then kids practicing on the side and digging into mathematics and really trying to unpack our problems of practice systemically is something that we've been about and focused on for quite some time, and we have more exciting things to report over time. But just thought that would be helpful for you to get a glimpse of what are the students doing and how do I represent that idea of 2x squared plus 3x minus 4 through a tile. And then the students were actually grouping those, the negatives and the positives, together to try to come up conceptually with what would the answer be. We had about 20 students get recognition and support with partnerships with Orting Police, and there's our own SRO Officer Boone doing a little shopping last weekend in the program Shop with a Cop, providing some gifts for students and families in need. We did reach out to an employment engagement survey, and I'm not going to read all of these because my eyes aren't that good. I was already teased and shamed a couple of times this week by someone that will be nameless. But I wanted to include some data in there for you so you can kind of see how our employees responded on many of the questions. So historically, what we have done is an employee survey upon separation, and we wanted to be proactive and not wait till they leave. We wanted to see what's happening with employees now and how can we do a better job and improve in key areas. So looking at some of the data points, you'll kind of get a sense of how do our employees feel. We had 193 responses out of about 350, 360, so a little over half, which is pretty good historically for surveys. And we see some pretty favorable responses when it comes to things like receiving support and timely communication, giving me some effective critique. And the 3s and the 4s would be in the world of agree or strongly disagree, where a 1 or a 2 would be slightly disagree or strongly disagree. We didn't put a neutral number. We figured we wanted somebody to take a stand one way or the other, just to kind of get a sense where things were. So you'll be able to take a look at that survey data. It's something we'll talk about in our 2x2s. But not surprisingly, when we start to look at areas to improve communication surfaces, and that's not a new thing in my career, that has regularly surfaced. So part of what our next steps are with this is working with HR to disaggregate the data and really spend time with our leaders who are here today to unpack this, to think through what are my next steps? How do I focus as a leader to improve communication, visibility, the feelings around belonging, support, empowering people with the tools necessary. So we'll spend some time unpacking this data and thinking about next steps, working with labor partners, leadership teams to try to find ways to improve. And then we want to come back to this data set and re-give it again in the spring and see where are we making gains and make that part of our regular routine. Again, when someone's made the decision to leave after we've trained and provided support, that's too late to ask the question. We want to ask it on the front end so we can improve that retention. Inclement weather, we had a little bit of dabbling. The picture, I just love this picture. This was actually at our middle school contest. That first day it started to snow and started to pick up and started to pick up. And in the midst of their game, it just got to be pretty snowy. We were a little bit worried, at least I was a little bit worried about that travel, but we made it home safely. Just wanted to get this out there public, so as soon as we make a decision, which is usually about 5 in the morning, we push that out on the flash alert system, so anybody that's signed up for that will get that alert right away. It goes out to media channels. Then we start to stagger that out a little bit. Employees and we'll get through the Parent Square app, we'll get a text, email, and a call at 5:30 in the morning, and then that goes out to our social media channels generally right around then, as soon as we get that staged. And our families get that text, email, or call about 6 o'clock in the morning. We generally refrain from making a decision until we've had the ability to assess all of the impact. We don't like to put multiple messages out there. So what that means is we need to drive our routes. We need to know where they're down trees, where they're flooding, what's safe, what's not safe. And it usually takes Megan and her crew a little bit of time in the morning early, starting about 3, to drive those 64 square miles and make that call. And so in the case of a delayed start, we did snow routes in the morning, we did regular routes in the afternoon. As you recall, when we do a snow route, it's a little bit inconvenient for a family. I have to come down out of a hill or out of my local area. So we don't like to make premature calls until we really have assessed the situation. And I hope that one snow day is all we have, but we will see how that goes. Orting history was made since our last board meeting. Our OHS girls bowling team defeated Fife 4-1 for the first league win, and we were just behind the defending league champs by just maybe a handful of points not too long ago. So I know those kids are encouraged, excited, and I would probably estimate at the match I went to 30 or so fans cheering them on. So a lot of Orting support showing up for our Lady Bowlers. Super cool. We had a lot of engagement. Director Milo talked about that with regard to the performing arts. Just a great way to demonstrate agency and student involvement, and the fans really do come out. There's a picture of the Holiday Bazaar. Director Kinsler, you spoke about that. we actually had to turn people away. So they had to cut it off at 100 vendors. So I know their minds are already thinking next year, how do I increase participation? We had several food trucks. It was just a wonderful community school partnership to get people in our school, in our halls, and let them show their wares. Think about other elements of agency. We did have a little bit of a crosstown collaboration with our high school and elementary students. So our high school students came up with an idea to work with our students at the elementary level about art and gratitude. So there's some photos of our high school students actually leading and working with our elementary students not too long ago. I thought I'd close on this idea, purposeful leadership. And you kind of see the questions in your board packet. But one of the ideas around collecting the data is that those triangulated points, when we talk to our students, we talk to our staff, we look at our test scores, for instance, and we look at all those multiple points, we try to interpret, well, what does that mean? What does that say? And we've talked a lot about agency in the last year. And we see elements even tonight of where we see strong agency or strong student-led, but it doesn't always translate into the classroom. So this is a picture of Principal Collins unpacking the data with his staff. And what we saw with the panorama survey data, where it measures different elements around agency or social emotional criteria, 42% of our students in aggregate showed that they had some element of efficacy, which isn't very high. So when we look at those questions and we ask our kids, how confident are you that you can complete all the work that is assigned to you? Or how confident are you that you can do the hardest work that is assigned to you? That's a pretty low score. So that's indicative that there's really not a strong belief or confidence that I can or will be successful in the student ranks. And that's him working with his staff to try to unpack that. Well, why not? Why is it that way? And what can we do about it? What strategies, how are we going to lean onto that? And I thought that was just a good lean into the idea around a school improvement plan. There are a lot of things you can focus on as a leader, and part of your job is to figure out what's most important and why do I think so. And that's just an example of how our leaders take the data sets or take a goal and then work with their teams to unpack and break that down into smaller chunks and then be able to work on it and come up with strategies collectively, working with our students and our adults, and then come back to that and measure, are we making a difference? So I thought that looking at the panorama data was just a great example or a lean into what you're about to hear from our leaders in just a few minutes with regard to their school improvement plans. And then Director Lee, before we do that, he's going to share a little bit about how do we take those big, broad system goals and work those to more of a fine-grained level that get me to the kind of action steps that will move that system forward. So he'll do a little precipice about how do we take the data and then develop a problem of practice around that, an area to focus, and then build a theory of action or a series of steps that are going to help move my school or my system forward. So that really concludes my report. That is just a very brief overview of many amazing things happened in the last month. People will be tired, ready for rest over the next couple of weeks, and we hope they do so, put the work behind, and then we'll kick it off and start championing a bond and other messaging here after the holidays.
Are we going to do the survey again at the end of the year?
That's our plan. Yeah, we want to unpack that and do some work around it and re-survey later this spring.
I just have to say, I was thrilled to see the tiles with the algebra team, class, because whenever things get complicated or new, it's always good to go back to concrete, always good to go back to concrete. And because many people need different ways to see things.
They do. And that's some of embedded in the math standards in our work is how do we look at multiple representations or think about a concept in different ways or through different representations. And so in the math standards, when we think about rigor, it's part of the procedural, part of the application, and then part of the conceptual. And knowing when and how to move fluidly among those or plan, that's how we help different learners access mathematics. If we only go through one doorway, we're going to miss some other folks.
And how to get to rigor if you don't understand it at the beginning, which is when the concrete really is going to help.
Absolutely.
I understood what they were doing, and I haven't done algebra in years.
Yeah, just go by Martina's class or some of the others, but it's a testament to their collaboration and the value around PLC time. She didn't come up with that on her own. That's a conversation that they have collectively or collaboratively about how do we help our students see things in different contexts or through different lenses, and it really does make a difference.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Next item is our student board representatives report, and you may notice Michaela is missing tonight. We're really proud of her. She's presenting to the Chamber of Commerce tonight about our school district and the good work that's happening in our buildings. So we're really proud of her and cheering her on in spirit. Can't wait to hear how it goes. But we're fortunate to have Grace with us this evening. So we're gonna let Grace go first before we dive into the school improvement plans. She's got finals, right?
It's been busy, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if this is on or not, but I'll just talk. I don't know. Okay, so a lot of the stuff that I was gonna mention has been covered a little bit, but I'll touch back on it in a minute. I got a lengthy list going on my drive right now. So I'll start with the band concert. I went last night and it was amazing. Band and choir have done so well in the past few months and years, and I'm just really impressed. I thought it was impressive to see the different levels and seeing my friends or people I've known move through the ranks in both the select choir and our jazz band and things like that. For our drama club, we got the play, which was the Curious Savage. I didn't have time to attend that, but Reese did an amazing job, and I've heard lots of good things from her about it and from the club. Our girls wrestling did really well at the Takedown and Tiaras tournament. I heard a lot of new good things about that. I actually stopped by when I was at the bazaar for a little bit and went to watch our wrestlers. It was really impressive. That would never be me. I could not. I can't imagine. That'd be so hard. Our boys basketball is working hard, and they have games tomorrow, all C team, JV, and varsity. And girls varsity basketball won last night with an impressive win over Kent Meridian, I believe. Yes. Our bowling is doing amazing. They have a match right now, or today, this evening. I'm really impressed with them. I know some of my friends are on the team, and I've heard lots about it. And from Nasnik, he announced it. He announced at our assembly today about bowling and have them all stand up. He was really proud. He has his own bowling ball too. So our first ever Winter Bazaar was extremely successful. From a student aspect, I was there at 6:50 in the morning, and I didn't leave till around 3:45 to 4. So I was there helping set up. I was helping make sure the vendors were running smoothly. And I will say that was one busy day at the high school. There was a lot of things going on, and I think it was a really successful and great idea. I know a lot of student leaders in my 4th grade and 1st grade leadership classes were working to put that together. And I'm really impressed with them and Miss Almond and all of our their work on it. And I think it was a really cool event that I'd like to see keep going. And hopefully with more room. It was really crowded, which is a good thing. So, some things I'd like to mention, speaking of ASB projects, there has been several big projects that are going to be happening or are currently happening. So, starting, I'm assuming January, will be our Kindness Weeks. That one is by a good friend of mine named Carly Castro. She's planning on working towards celebrating those kind acts and things that we stand for at Orting High School. There was another one this week, which was a school-wide white elephant exchange at our lunches. That was really fun. I got to participate. That was awesome. There has been gratitude turkeys, which is a picture that was mentioned up there. There has also been ornament making and all sorts of other big events that our leadership students have been putting together on their own with the help, little bits of help from our ASB advisor. But it's cool to see student initiative in our school and what they can do for others. Another one of them was a student-led staff and student recognition for Student of the Month and Teacher of the Month. We have them up in our new display cases right by the pack. They make little flyers about their little bits of information about the students and staff, and they go up every month. So, a field trip that just currently happened was a combined one with the Future Business Leaders of America Club, business classes, and our culinary classes all together. We went to the Bellevue Collection, and FBLA and business classes had a marketing presentation, and culinary, we got to go see all the restaurants and that kind of thing. I was in the marketing side, so I'm not sure necessarily everything the culinary students did.
They ate dumplings.
That sounds big.
They got
That
to
sounds a
go
little
to
more
the
entertaining.
Taiwan.
That sounds awesome, because I know I could smell all the food from just walking through there. I was like, this is amazing.
I'm so jealous.
But we got to hear all about all the different information about what you can do with the Bellevue Collection and how they put it together and how they function, especially with Snowflake Lane currently occurring. It was really, really interesting to see their businesses and things that they do like that. The marketing perspective is really interesting because when everything went to digital, they still had paper copies of magazines, which was a really interesting tactic. And now that things are so crowded on the digital space, they have more population on their paper, which was kind of cool. So, speaking of our princess candidates, a lot of this stuff you guys have talked on, because it's been really cool to me too. So Anna Kepker, she is really proud. We're really proud of her for how well she's done and how well she's served our school. I believe she just went on a daffodil retreat a couple weekends ago or last weekend too for princessing. I don't know the term. That's a good one. So for our Veterans Day Assembly, that was a huge success. There was lots of veterans felt special and stuff like that. And we had several from our school talk and that. Along with our veterans, there's an ASB project, another one, we've got a lot of those, that are happening right now, that some students are getting gifts together and little items for veterans staying in the tiny homes on the fields right now. I walked into the workroom today and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of them, and they've done such a good job. I think some of them might have even spent a little bit of brought in items for school and things like that. And it's really interesting and nice and sweet to see that. I'm glad to see that they're working with the community that way. So this week itself has just been eventful. As the sweaters we were discussing earlier, it was our spirit week. So Monday was our fun sock day. Tuesday was, winter wear day. So goggles, jackets, vests. Wednesday was ugly sweater. Thursday, today, was pajama day. And tomorrow will be our color boards, but instead of the traditional Orting colors, we're doing winter colors. So there's seniors are red, juniors are blue, sophomores are green, and freshmen are white. So I thought it'd be a fun way to incorporate holiday and winter colors like that. We had our assembly today, and that was a big one. So we had a couple fun games. This was also a student-led project that happened at this assembly. They came up with a script and Spirit Week and things like that. So at this assembly we had games, we had sports recognition, and we had the winners of the door decorating competition, which was a big deal at our school. I personally put in a little bit too much effort on the artwork, but it's okay. It was a lot of fun, and I believe that it's not right, it's Babcock's class 1. Yes, and they did such a good job down in the West Wing. They took a entire corner, it was really good. I think some of you guys might, I think you were judging. I was going to say, the same way as
It was.
Yes. But that was incredible to see, just walking through the hallways. I think it brought just a sense of spirit to our school, and it was just nice. So another holiday themed thing we had going on this week was holiday rubber ducky sales. This idea was brought to us last year. We've continued it. It's just a silly little thing. Just who doesn't like rubber duckies? And it might be biased because I drive a Jeep, so it's a whole ducking thing. Putting ducks on Jeeps, but that's just a thing. But we had 2 different sets. There was just to bring some fun to the air. Yeah, we had a Thanksgiving food drive right before Thanksgiving, which was a student. I keep saying that. I guess we had a lot of these.
I love it.
There was a lot of student-led projects going on. So that was pretty successful in our schools. And then right now, tonight, actually, I believe I want to say 6 to 7, there's a collection happening for the NHS food drive, which should be pretty well. We all went out and put out flyers and things like that out in our community. We all divided up and took different streets. Not a big town, but small club, big streets. So we all split up, and that should be happening tonight, too. And I'd like to mention, he's not here anymore, but the unhomed youth awareness, I think that's a really good idea, and I'm going to take that back. I put it in my notes, so I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, do you guys have questions or any thoughts?
Been busy
It's been busy, especially since I haven't been able to make it to the past few.
Well, Grace, I think you do an amazing job. Yours, really. I mean, I don't even recognize you as a student. I feel like you're just part of us. You're so well spoken. You're great.
Thank you.
You're amazing. It's just fun to listen to you and to see all the things that you've accomplished and that you're a part of, and the whole high school. But I love you. You know I love you.
Thank you. I was going to say, thank you. Thank you.
Can we see a picture of your horses?
Yes, of course. If I didn't have to leave early today, I would totally would, but I'll be back next time.
Okay.
Well, Grace, we know that sometimes it might not be math or language or history that brings the kids to school and gets them excited about what's happening in their day. And all of these student-led activities
Yes.
help accomplish that and create unity and connection in the students. So, you know, it might be a lot to say there's a lot of student-led activities, but my gosh, you have our support and we love it, and keep going.
Thank you. Thank you. We don't plan on stopping, hopefully. Till we run out of time.
One of your goals or measures as a board is to really increase the number of student-led activities, and keep in mind what you saw and heard tonight and go back in time a year ago and just think about the difference of what that's doing for our system. So I really don't have a number of where we started, but I know it's the right way to go to invest in our youth and really get them involved with our community and our chamber, working with other schools. That is absolutely the right way to go forward. So thank you for your help in that regard.
I also love that you're making kids want to be at school. You know, it's like, that was just one of my big things, because for a long time it was kind of like, oh, I don't want to go to school today or whatever, but just looking forward to the activities and the fun that goes on in buildings makes kids want to be there, and it makes it a happy place for them, so it's nice.
Yeah. That's our goal. Which one? Student engagement. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you need to chat.
I do, thank you. Thank you. Not that I don't want to stay, I promise.
So should we take a couple minutes to reset the room?
Yeah, if we can, maybe leaders, you can help with this too. What we want to do is put the chairs off to the side and then put a little bit more distance among and between the tables, and shift the ones that are closest to the board table.
Plan.
So I am honestly thrilled. This is an honor for me to introduce really the best principals in the entire world. So I get that honor today. And one message I've been sending the principals the entire year is tell the story of your school. So tonight you're going to hear that story, and my job is to provide an introduction to what you're going to hear tonight. And so if we start off thinking about what is a continuous school improvement plan, it is the work that we engage in throughout the year. Last year we added the word continuous, and that was actually intentional, because a plan sort of implies that it's going to be final, right? Well, we all know that work with people requires flexibility and movement along the way. However, what Superintendent Hatfield was talking about is there's so much to do that we have to have focus, and that's what the CSIP, or the Continuous School Improvement Plan, provides for us. So you've seen the mission many times before. It's something that we reach out to the community and we talk about, like mission, like why do we exist? Why do we come to work every day? Why do we interact with kids every day? And there's for things like, Director Tracy was talking about this, about, it has to be engaging and fun for kids. But there's a lot about the partnership that we have with the community that's really an important part of our mission, our reason for existing. And then what do we do with that? Well, we recognize that kids have infinite power. They really do. And a lot of times we just got to get out of their way. But our job is to really think about those experiences we can provide kids. When we talk about connecting, inspiring, and empowering those students in a way that provides not only the agency that we keep bringing up, but provides them the skills for them to move forward with their lives. And so you're going to hear goals around that tonight, because we actually have theory of action around that. So theory of action is what do we believe will make a difference for our students. So we talked about a lot of these things. You'll see it really deals with how students feel. Like they feel cared for, they have a deep sense of belonging. This one's really important, the next bullet, know their voice, ideas, interests, that they're utilized and valued. And that's something that, as we talk about that, it actually seems rare, but when we say, well, yeah, they should feel that, right? We need to develop a belief they can make a difference, really important. That's the advocacy that's been brought up several times. Experience high levels of support and having barriers removed. That's really important. And I just want to mention that I am committed to talking about the homeless youth that we have as well. I love that idea. So that'll fit right into this. And you think about like our goals, those have been presented to you several times. I won't go over those, but really in a CSIP, it exists to really talk about the school profile. So you're going to learn about what's happening at the school. And so what does that school look like? And it's usually embedded in the data that they have. And I know data sounds kind of boring and scary. We do talk about like the story of your school, and around that story of the school is based on the data that your school has. So it should be told it's a story. That's a hint for all of you, by the way. And then we'll look at the school priorities, because you can't do everything. And so our leaders have a vision of what's good. and what will make a difference in their school. And then we'll talk about school goals, and the school goals are really focusing on those 5 goals that we had developed earlier on. However, this year, we talked about focusing in on 3 goals in particular. One, student agency, one around academic achievement, and then thinking about student support systems within that. So that's really the targeted goals you'll see tonight, and those are the 3 goals you'll be looking for as they speak. One thing that Ed's talked quite a bit about is how do we get down to an area that's manageable? Because if you think about schools and the work that needs to be done, it can be overwhelming. There's just so much to do around that. And so the really important work is what we call the red thread. And what we do is we start with a problem of practice. And so that data we're talking about that we presented as part of the story of the school is really, it identifies the things that the school really needs to work on. And so we look about things around disparity, student achievement, we look at attendance, we look at things like, we talked about the social emotional learning skills that kids have. And so that'll develop what's called a problem of practice, which sounds negative, it's actually a good thing, okay? Because it leads to what's called a theory of action. The theory of action is, what do you believe is the highest leverage move that if you were to put into place in your building, that'll make the biggest difference for the most kids? And that's the targeted element of what that is. And then the next step along that is really the implementation plan. So it's not enough just to know kind of the direction we're going in. You have to have a plan. And that plan is what you're going to hear about tonight and the steps along the way. And then we'll talk about how they're going to implement and monitor that plan along the way. That's the leadership that's behind that. And the partnership that they're going to have with the community and with the people in the building. And then looking for that vision of success. Like, what does done look like? So at some point we want to reach that. Although I want to emphasize the continuous part of that continuous school building plan is that's going to evolve. And it's because we are actually producing kids, helping kids. We're not actually making tires here. So it's not a factory system, we're dealing with human beings, and that's why we want to leverage that. So that's what you're going to see tonight. And Mr. Rabb, Director Rabb is actually going to be the master of ceremonies here. We have a rotation system here.
All right, thank you. So my job tonight, as you see what you've got in front of you, 15 minutes, principals will be trying to summarize for you 15 plus hours worth of work in 15 minutes. And our request is that you hold your questions till the end. We give you 5 minutes to ask questions, which I know that's not going to be easy to do as well. But we really do need to stick to that time. If you demonstrate you can't stick to that time, you might be the timekeeper next year. Okay? So if you'll go ahead and we'll get you into your places. I will actually have the time up on the screen. Do you want to stop sharing and I'll share mine? And so the assignments, do you guys know which tables you're starting at and assigned to? Let's go ahead and move into those directions right now. I'll get this set up to ready to go. I'll be closely monitoring while you're doing this, the process.
Oh, well.
26 in the evening, and our leaders have just given you what's left in the tank. We didn't use the 5 minutes per transition that we had scheduled, so we have a couple of minutes banked. We'd love to hear your feedback about how impressed you are with the principals that you have.
Putting words in our mouth.
Kind of put you in a box there, didn't he?
Well, I say this to each group, this is one of my favorite things. I feel like this is the important work that we should be spending our time on as a board and as administrators. That this work is already having such an important impact on our students. And so first, always, I want to thank you. The second piece that stood out to me was just this common thread of investing your time and energy in developing your teams and yourself, that professional development component, because what we're doing in Orting looks very different. You know, I've been here, my kids have been through the system, this is different and it's new and it's impressive, but that takes some vulnerability and learning on our part too. So I want to thank you for that time that you're investing in yourselves and your staff and all the kids.
I can honestly say, for the first time in a long time, I feel like, yes, we do have really good principals. And I've always felt like good principals good building, you know, and its leadership is so important. And I feel really good about who we have as our principals and what you guys are doing. I know the teachers are responding, a lot of them, and the kids are loving coming to school, most of them. And so, I mean, most of them. I can't go 100%. But I am so proud to have you guys. It's like, if you know me, you know I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it, and I haven't always said it, but I feel that way.
Well, I'm going to say I'm really glad that we had that little snowstorm because Carrie wouldn't have been able to attend. And as evidenced by her very uplifting little speech there and how much she loves this, as we all do. It's one of the highlights. Besides getting to see your kids in their buildings, those nights are always fun too. But I hope that as we were at these tables, I kept hearing too, taking care of yourselves as well as your students, and I hope that this Christmas break that you all as leaders really, I know Ed, he preaches this to you, but follow his orders and take the vacation.
I just wanted to say, I know a lot of you know me. If I'm asking you a lot of questions, it's because I've been listening. It's not because I'm trying to put a. I just like to understand, and I'm listening. And thank you for your answers. I appreciate it.
I'm going to say, being new to the board, right, and experience in this, it was nice to see this group's together, right, and watching how the principals would take their teams and then just bringing that together. And this looks good going forward. Let me say that. That's what it sounds like to me. I think the board before it's moving in the right direction.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the principals, but I'm going to speak, so I guess it kind of does that. Carrie, you asked, like, what can we do to support you? You strike a fine balance as a board between, you are an accountability system for our system, so you want a critical voice. And also, we've seen boards that have like personal agendas or have different missions as individuals. Having a board that has one grace for failure and grace for creativity and grace for experimentation, that asks questions that are genuine, that aren't just to fill time, seeing you guys at different events, just that grace and presence and knowing that you share that the vision is actually the vision, those simple 3 words, that we all share the vision as leaders with you as a board. That comfort level as a leader, there's not these other things that we have to do to make the board happy, just that you all have the same vision. That stress you have for us in our own lives, that takes a whole bunch of stress off us as principals. So it's, from principal voice, just thank you for that, because that's a hard place to be. I know there's a lot of voices in the back of your head with really small personal agendas. And I think you guys do a good job of filtering that and getting the most important things through to Ed for us to answer for you. So you are already doing the hard work of taking all that from the community, bringing that forward to Ed in an appropriate manner, and just sharing the vision. So thank you for that.
And Ed, thank you for having the school improvement plans be related to the school district's plan and to each other, because it really, really, really shows that we're working together, and it's much more comfortable than the old style when it was everybody doing it.
Okay, Director Kinsler gave the order to follow the boss's order. First step, go home.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you.
You don't miss a lead.
Real short and sweet, that student is running down.
Great job.
Doing them incredible. Is she still ours? Yes, she's
In the office?
Good, right?
already helped.
Can't be about lost losses in the long run. It was very evident. Yep. I just need you to be proud. All right.
I was gonna go out and get your wreath, but well, it's not a wreath, it's a sway. It's a sway. I didn't know if we were done or not, but I'm getting close.
You know the best part about that? It's not just a
Almost done.
document we throw on the shelf.
Right.
We work on it every single time we meet together.
Oh, yeah, 2 weeks, Kathy, you get a 2-week break.
Oh, no, I don't. I get, I think JJ's gonna go 2 weeks without. Besides, it's been a while. We haven't achieved. Cookie decorating session. Oh, yeah. No, it's, I totally agree.
Okay, we want to move to the superintendent's evaluation piece.
Yeah, we have feedback to give you.
That's feedback.
Signs in the back, or smiley face, frowny face, for each criteria.
Let's go up here pretty quick, so let's.
But I got the.
I thought we do it like the Olympics where we're like,
That's what we're gonna do. Or like the Roman gladiators.
Right here to the down. Guess we better have a meeting. Or we have to hear from yes.
So whatever, if you could just check that I'm on the list for the robocall. Yeah. Because I know, get the texting, any other, just for the robocall. I know.
I felt like we had really good answers to my questions.
I love the lights. I keep telling everybody it's not a church, it's a school. Just a lot of
Cat City.
Cats?
Now we got a ship.
We have our puppy, she's a year, but she's still so curious. We decorated all of her nose.
You have a puppy?
Well, she's a year, and she's just super curious, yeah. And she has a very aggressive,
What kind of?
she's a lab.
Oh, so
I have to say that she's taking stuff off our tree. My wife's like, I'm ready to kill her.
Calling for
And I'm like, don't kill her.
But you know, big dogs take a long time.
and the tails are just like
Oh.
Yeah.
whips.
Kathy, you know, Berta and Mark's Bertie's mountain dog
I didn't know
got
that.
cancer and died. That's so sad. That was their favorite dog.
My first one did.
Really?
Yeah, they're very proud.
Okay,
He was the sweetest thing ever.
I feel like I need to call the meeting back to order. Let's do this. We're back in session.
Yeah, okay.
The next item is prepared by Marcy Bannon. It's our community lease agreement.
We do need an action on the SIP plans. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. movement to approve the plans?
I will make a motion to approve the CSIP plans as presented tonight.
Can I get a second? Did you?
Thank
you.
She did, I heard her.
All in favor of approving the continuous school improvement plans as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Now for the 2023 community lease agreements. If there's no discussion, then I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the 2023 Orting Family Support Center, Orting Lions Community Park, and Orting Senior Center lease agreements as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Bannon. And facilities update is next. Liz, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah,
This long
it's
meeting.
very busy, so I will keep it short. I took a couple of these packets, though. I want to look at it. Where's my plan?
Yeah.
So I have a very brief update for the board. I thought it's still worthwhile to give you a quick update. We've been keeping a lot of other components moving as much as the bond kind of communications kicked off. So we put a hold on the design from the last board update, and obviously we looked at the overall budget. And now we've been kind of keeping some of the permitting components moving forward. So the 510 and 710 property went for the rezone that the district submitted back in the spring, approximately in March. And so that went to the planning commission, and they approved that to move forward to go to city council. So in January, end of January, there will be a city council workshop that at that time we'll talk through kind of some of the impacts towards that rezone. Overall, the planning commission had a staff report up on the city's webpage that overall was in support of that rezone, and then it goes for a vote to city council in February. So that's one kind of a big milestone that's exciting. The other component is we're gonna start doing some due diligence of just inquiring with the city and some partnerships with the city for building permit process. So the start of that is really not a lot of time, but we create a kind of list of questions that has to do with some of the regulations that they're enforcing and some that they aren't, some of the interpretations for like the stormwater manual and things like that. So we're gonna apply for that in 1st of January for a pre-application meeting. We'll do that 2 separate pre-app meetings, one for the new elementary and one for PTR. And that'll just kind of allow the district kind of to be able to start quicker, know that we have kind of all the information, not all, but obviously just the first initial information. And even with the planning commission meeting, I was able to make some connections with some other city officials. So we had some information about structural review and something like that that's helpful for our design team. And then lastly is the D form. So the district, I think it was about 6 years ago, had updated the official study and survey with OSPI. It's different than just the overall kind of assessments that you do for your facilities. It's and that is what's triggering some of the square footages that we utilize for your state match funding. So we're doing an update to that. It's called a D1 form. In January, you're able to submit for that, and the state gives you a contingency of an amount to be able to do that work. So we pay NAC's office or an architecture office to kind of compile all that information, but the state essentially gives that funds back to you as a credit. And so that would actually starts the D form process, and then it's not until D3 that you actually will know exactly that amount of potential state match funding, which is months to come, but at least that form is started. So that's regardless of what happens in February, it's just good to get that updated for the district.
Will we know that number, that state match number, before the bond? Or
No, you will not.
Not till after?
No. So it's 11 part form. It's basically the odd numbers or something the district submits, the even numbers the OSPI submits back, And so it's not until D3, D4 where that number is actually kind of not finalized, but estimated.
Okay.
So this is just the first step.
Okay.
We gave the board update of that range, and so that was with recent conversations with OSPI. We're feeling more confident with the range of state match funding.
Okay.
Could you share a little bit about the wetland mitigation news we received?
Well, we've made a lot of assumptions with some of that wetland in lieu of. So when you remove wetland, how much you have to place in that quantity as far as ratio. And so the good news from our side is that our assumptions were accurate. Those were confirmed by the Corps of Engineers. So it was tough to get a couple calls with them, and they needed some time to also interpret what had happened on the 510 site, the 710 site, the north site. Just because of the developer that kind of moved some dirt around, and then it wasn't native, it was a lot of fill, and so how that was interpreted. So they took the more, reasonable, but, conservative but reasonable kind of approaches that we did as well. So it was a confirmation of all of the diagrams the board's already seen of that ratio of how much wetland they need to put back. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's good news. So we were really
scary.
Right.
It's not
really
the
good.
wetlands doubled in size.
Yes, exactly.
It's always good.
And so it's good that we have core buy-in, and so to have that touch point of having, that, confirmed is a big deal. They're tough, especially, they're just backlogged, so they're tough to get a hold of.
And we're still keeping the poplar trees. Right?
Some.
Wood.
One.
Snow and spring.
Some are not in the right spot.
We have a lot of time to.
Yeah.
You're not asking.
A lot of time for providing input from the community and
We have
the
a
board.
new horticulture.
Yes,
line
exactly.
program.
Program. Yes. Yes.
Great.
Questions?
Any
So-
questions?
Yeah.
Or anything more?
No, that's it.
I think the city's really excited about helping us. My husband's on the city council, and he acted like they were really excited about it and thought they
Good.
could help out with some things. And,
Good.
Wow.
they're excited.
Definitely appreciate it, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
that'll be nice.
yes.
Let's not have that be an issue.
No, I think everyone seems very supportive. Planning Commission was very supportive.
That's awesome. Perfect.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
happy
you.
holidays.
You too. Next up is financial report. I did not see any questions prior to the meeting. Yeah. Good job again. And next is the Securely website security monitoring. It's Director Rad.
Yeah, just very briefly, this came to our attention by way of our Director of Technology, Matt Hunter. And when we first started talking about this, I don't think we leaned into it as carefully as we could, and he just wouldn't let go of it. So I've certainly accommodated him for his intentionality around here, because at the core of it, he was really thinking of our district's liability that we would be exposed to. And so between his kind of prodding and Superintendent Hatzenbeeler and Debbie and I's work, Debbie checked with legal and whatnot, Securely is our resource that we have that when students are on district devices, we monitor that activity, even if they're at home. And if the system is set up to have triggers built into it, if students are searching in ways that hit some of these triggers, and in particularly concern would be any type of intentionality or ideation towards suicide, self-harm of any type, those are triggered, and Securely picks those things up, and then they notify the school. Well, if that notification comes in the middle of the night, and a principal isn't checking their phone at 1:30 in the morning, then we would be delayed in responding to that. And we have had a situation where actually, and it was Cliff who got a notification, and it was in the middle of the night, but he did hear it and he did pay attention to it, and he immediately contacted the family, and it was a potential threat. So what we're recommending is that we add to our contract with Securely this 24-hour monitoring system that actually takes place if there is an event which triggers them and they reach out and they cannot get a hold of a administrator. They have a backup plan to reach out to the family. The actual agency does itself, and if they can't do that, then they reach out to police. So it's a double bind kind of protection that the district has, and you see the expense for that on an annual basis. And I think we have the situation where we have at least one student that we were able to push in and get support for. That's probably worth any amount of money, but just to give you some background onto why that is being recommended that we do that. Or take any questions if you have them.
Hey, if it saves one life,
That was worth it.
What's that worth, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it only picking up this particular topic? or
No.
is it- Okay.
But that's the one that has the most sense of urgency tied to it. So you could have other things going on, you could have inappropriate activities going on in the middle of the night, but, and some of those kinds of things, that can wait till tomorrow.
Right.
But self-harm can't.
Right.
And is the only thing that we would be acted on immediately the self-harm section?
I believe that would be the case, yes.
What about threats to
School-based
others?
threat.
Threats to others?
Yes,
Yeah.
any type of the threat,
Okay,
threat to
any-
self,
okay.
threat to
Self or
others.
others,
Okay,
yeah,
so it's not
absolutely.
just self, but it's any
Yeah.
kind of threat.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Also,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good.
yeah, because we can't be asking every principal to sit
Yeah.
at their phone.
All night long.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that and preach self-care at the same time,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
I will, I'm glad that, Matt didn't, give up on
Yeah.
his, pressure for
Yeah.
this, so.
Yeah, both Ed and I have pushed into him, given him the pat on the attaboy
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of thing. His intentionality is keenly noted.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this is just one more area that we'd want to celebrate or communicate to families over time about the importance of levy dollars and how they go to help support safety and security throughout the district. This, the SRL, there's many other factors that come into play, to include some messaging around the facilities and the bond side that we will be doing after break. But just want to have that reminder of the importance of that community support, because we do believe in this case, a life was saved as a result of that intervention.
Things I didn't even think about how a school could be effective in that way, so it's awesome.
And it's definitely erring on the side of caution. We didn't get anything necessarily conclusive. We got recommendations both from legal and the risk pool. It errs on the side of caution, but it seems to make really good rational sense. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So our next report is non-discrimination affirmative action. This is a prepared by. Any questions?
No questions for me?
All right. And our fifth one is prepared by Director Willis regarding language access.
I just have to say, I was amazed at all the different languages.
Yeah.
I was just,
Mhm.
I was really surprised.
I just want
A lot.
to say something really quick, because I know it's been a long meeting. Are you laughing at me?
No, I am busted, but I was laughing with you.
So I was amazed too. And so when I came from Federal Way, we had 110 languages. Came here, there were 36 kids who spoke another language. And so we had 3,500
Right.
spoke other languages there. But however, we currently now have 120 kids who speak other languages. And what's interesting is that not all families identify their home language as other than English. So when they actually registered using the home language survey, which is a requirement for registration, sometimes they don't identify themselves as having a language that's other than English. Well, that actually creates some issues for us when it comes to that. And thanks to Parent Square, not Parent Squared, Parent Square, it actually interprets all the messages that go out from the school district based upon the language, home language survey. And so when you take a look at this, we're not hitting all the families. We're hitting the families that have identified themselves. And so the other part that you have to think about too is that it's not only about the documents and the written part, it's the oral. So we have two services that we've used since 2017, Language Line and Dynamic Language. And we use both of those in the buildings. We also have Google Translate, but you're not supposed to, we wouldn't be using that for any vital documents, but we use Google Translate to help support our communication. If a teacher wants to say something to a family, they can use Google Translate for that. Translation's very expensive. It's about 20 cents a word. That's a lot. 20 cents a word, and just doing one letter is upwards a little over $110. And so one letter. And so, yeah, it's expensive. But one of the nice things that's coming about is the fact that now with Parent Square, now they have mechanical translators that we're able to meet families in the main office, and we're purchasing one for every main office with our equity grant, thanks to Steve. Our equity grant, we'll have one in each franchise. It's not perfect, but it'll help with our, I'll call it bedside manner, with each of our families as they walk into our buildings. So that's it. That's all I have right now. But I just wanted to share a little bit about that.
Well, that's a big plus, because I have to say, when I first started here, there was very few other, but I did have a Russian student that we had to get Vera from the cafeteria to be the translator.
Yeah. And the big influx this year is obviously our Ukrainian families.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. All right, superintendent, evaluation preparation. It's over, you're dying. Sorry.
I'll just speak briefly, because I don't believe there's objection, but we'll just say it publicly. The recommendation that I have for you is to move the evaluation to the WASDA model for superintendent evaluation. I believe it's a little bit more closely aligned to the role of the superintendent versus the AWSP Central Office Leadership Framework that we used last year. The board can move through a comprehensive or a focused evaluation. A comprehensive means that we do all standards and all criteria. What we did last year was a focused evaluation, which lifts what we've discussed as the most important. What I've recommended in my Friday update is that we continue with focus, and I try to pick 3 areas that are most closely aligned to the conversations we've had, which would be on the first standard, it's around that first strand around visionary leadership, about advancing a system-wide vision, working in partnership with that. The second area I recommended was in the second standard about instructional leadership, strand 1, which is really about putting student learning at the center of the work. Then the third strand, I tried to look at what was most closely aligned to our facilities or our bond work, because that's been a big focus for, well, since I started. And really looking at standard 6, strand 2 about socio-political context. It's about working in partnership with the board. And I felt like that was a good place to look, because there's not just a facilities evaluation component, but I felt like that was a good place to look through the lens of the work that we've done with partners, city, outside forces, things like that, to move that vision forward about how do we prepare and plan for future growth and facility work. So that would be my recommendation around the focus of those 3 strands, and as long as you as a team are in agreement, what Bonnie and I will do is prepare the documentation for the executive session at the regular board meeting in January. So not the 5th, but the 19th. We would have an executive session, and we'll have that prepared for you. And just keep in mind, as you're thinking between this meeting and the next month, that everything that we see and discuss is fair game for documentation, for evidence. So thinking about Friday updates, thinking about what you see in here today, your school improvement plannings, updates that we do on email, our 2x2s, so everything really counts as evidence as you're formulating your thoughts and getting those in advance of the meeting. And then, of course, in future meetings, 2x2s, happy to answer any questions you may have as you look at the criteria and have wonders or things like that that would help you make a decision.
I'm all for it.
I
I agree. I like the change of platform.
I do too.
It does align better. So, yeah.
Yep, and I agree with the focus areas. I think one thing as we go, so yes, please make document adjustments. I think key board for us is to make sure we all understand what the rubric components are and that we collect the evidence to support them. So for us, it's alignment on that rubric definitions. But yeah, I think the plan and the format, we're all in agreement.
And I'm just gonna throw myself on the mercy because having, I think this will be my second one. So I feel like I'm really kind of still learning this whole process on how to do that. And I just want to say that as a group, when we talked together, some of those things were enlightened for me last time. So it was like, oh yeah. So I like the way that we do this in kind of this roundtable discussion because for me, whether I have managed people or not, this is an entirely different animal to me.
Yeah.
So especially being really new to sitting up here on the table. So I just kind of putting it out there as my experience that when we all talk together, it kind of enlightens things and it helps you.
Yeah, it helps me too.
Yeah. Yeah, so in previous years, how we've done it is, we discuss, review kind of what our thoughts are. We collect the evidence in support of those decisions. And then prior to meeting with the superintendent, we discuss as a group and come up with one decision around that metric. So we'll have time to meet as a team. And then we'll provide that feedback. Superintendent, it's worked pretty well in the past, but that'll be the plan. Good?
There will be an action item after that as well.
Right.
Just as a reminder.
Yes.
Just as a reminder.
Yes, there will.
Yes.
Any further comments, discussions on that? All right. Next item on the agenda is first reading of handful of policies and procedures. And I did not see any questions prior to this meeting, so looks like they all pass and move forward to second reading. Sounds legitimate. Okay. And next up is consent agenda, so we have items 1 through 5. And if there's no discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I will motion to approve items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Now we will open up for board comments.
I actually, it's a question, a comment question for the future. After Todd's request and encountering a homeless family, I did wonder what we do as a board, community, school district. I mean, who do you contact? I mean, I was wondering if we could have a little bit more information about the outside help, either for the families here or the kids here, you know. I mean, because I actually thought, so who would I contact if I saw somebody, you know, would I contact the police, would so I was wondering if we could just have a little bit of a conversation sometime about what are our resources we have, what do we partner with the community with,
A year ago, you made January Whole Child Month and passed a proclamation as a board. In our regular board meeting, we did just an update about all the community providers, what resources are out. And it was an exhaustive list, and we'd be happy to share some information if you would like to hear more in that regard in January, because that would be a perfect tie to what that month is really recognizing.
Yeah.
That it takes a lot of different entities to come together to support our families and children. And we do aspire, and that's why it's a named board goal, because we value and aspire to continue to grow and build those community partnerships. There's no way to do this work by ourselves.
Right.
So if that would be helpful, we could discuss what you would like to hear more about and then bring something back in that regard.
and maybe is this something that we should have a conversation with the city about also? I mean, Chris partners with, but do we need to have, I don't know, because I don't know enough about it to see if we need to expand this in some way, as a community, and not just a school district.
Let's talk more in our 2x2
Right.
meetings about what we'd like to hear about in January. I know, in the past, Chris we've had those partner groups come in and talk, and let's think about what we want to do in January to recognize those partnerships and elevate them and promote them to our families and our community. But let's talk in our 2x2s and kind of get alignment around that as we prepare for that.
No, I didn't mean to put us on the spot, I just, he struck a chord of something that I've been wondering about.
Perfect.
Is that because because you're so actively walking in, the areas of town, is that because when you run across somebody who you feel like could use assistance, you want to know where to go, where to point them to?
That was the one incident that came up.
Okay.
It's in my head.
Okay, that's kind of what I was, gotcha.
I was wondering, I'm sure Chris knows this, but we don't have to talk about it tonight, but it's interesting the difference in a homeless kid at the high school level compared to at the elementary level.
Right.
And just the difference in what we can do for them. So that'd be something to talk about, because a lot of the high school, they just live at different people's houses, couch
Right.
surf. But I don't know the breakdown, but it'd be kind of interesting to see.
The breakdown in numbers?
Yeah.
I can find that out if you want.
I'd just be interested, because if we could help in a different way, maybe.
I can tell you
Happy holidays.
I want to just thank you for the generosity and the little reminders of the holidays and the gifting. It was very nice to come in here and see that, so thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry I didn't do the baking.
All forgiven, although I was looking forward to some bread.
You can make up for it in January.
My baking day's tomorrow. I don't think I'm gonna make anybody come back for it.
Bread is good any time of the year, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I only make batches of 4 at a time. I don't make batches.
That's right.
I just, we talked about this a little bit. Just one of my comments as I continue. We did talk about student engagement as a priority and just the progression over time of how many things are happening. And listening to the middle school team talk about the clubs. I didn't even know we had RC car club. Is that what it was?
I love that, racing the cars up and down.
Yeah.
I just want to commend, so many of these activities are student-led, and I love that. I know that there's staff and teachers supporting them and encouraging them and lifting them forward, do this good work, and I just am grateful that we have this group of people here for our kids. So, well done.
And we need to make sure we include, when we talk about community information with the bond, we want to make sure that we have updated numbers for the activity bus. So to show them how much support we're getting from the kids.
Yeah, other common themes tonight was student engagement and the value of that activity bus, especially at the, below high school, and TOSAs, the value that our TOSAs are bringing to the table with our new curriculum.
Yes, the TOSAs are. I think it's because we listened to the speaker at the conference, but it's just been on my mind about principals and how superintendent and principals and the leadership, how much they go through. I mean, he just really brought that across to me, and it's like just trying to support them in any way that you can, because you don't, I wasn't really thinking about it as much prior to listening to him talk, but just listening to, and then you start thinking about all the things, and so it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's hard to let them, leadership, we have great leadership here, so it's just important that we let them know that we really appreciate that, because they work really hard, and,
And
it makes a
10 o'clock
difference.
tonight, Dr. Brown and, I don't remember the co-person, their TV show starts.
Oh, it does, tonight at 10?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I forgot, so good thing you said it, because I was planning to see it.
Wow.
All right, if there's no further discussion, then I will adjourn the meeting tonight at 8:10. Woo, 3 hours and 10 minutes.